And we're going to send you to Rome first. Marianne Ahern, our reporter on the scene, who has covered her third conclave, but the first one with the American Pope. This makes it that much more momentous, especially being from Chicago. I remember you first mentioning him as one of the front runners here, and here you weren't really sure it could possibly happen because he was American, and here we are today. Marianne, what's your initial reaction?
It has been absolutely amazing, Marion. As soon as we heard of the white smoke, we had just been speaking to you on our 11 a.m. news. My photographer comrade, the best there is in the business, Mike McGovern, and I ran to the square to be a part of all of this, to hear for ourselves. Now, it takes about an hour before the announcement. So we were shoved together with all of the people who were trying to get closer and closer and closer. And when they finally said the name, I said, did they really say Roberto Francis? I knew that was his name, his middle name. I honestly just could not believe it. And someone next to us said, it's an American, he's from Chicago. And there happened to be a young student who is here from Chicago. There was students as well from Indiana. Let's listen to what they had to say, their initial reactions.
I mean, being in Rome, like, as a whole is just incredible. To be here during the new Pope election, I mean, that's once in a lifetime.
I want to know his background. I mean, honestly, I'm just shocked it's an American that they picked. It's crazy, and I'm really excited about it.
And the fact that it's one of our own Americans just makes it that much more amazing that we're here to see it.
He has been described, however, though, as the least American of the Americans because he has spent some 2 decades in South America, in Peru, has a dual passport. I actually even interviewed him 12 years ago after the Pope Francis conclave, happened to run into him. He spoke briefly to us. He was quite proud of Pope Francis. It took a minute for us to even remember that we had spoken to him before. And he has been described to us as someone who is unassuming but powerful behind the scenes. He has had this very big job as being the head of the bishops, assigning bishops all over the world. So that takes quite a skill, and his language skills of some 3 or 4 different languages. Of course, Chicago, we want to know more about those roots. He went to grammar school on the South Side. He went off to the seminary when he was in high school in Michigan, the Augustinians. He's from the Augustinian order. But he did attend Villanova University, and one of his friends, Father Tony, who is also an Augustinian, spoke to me, did not want to do an interview on camera, but said to me, he is respected for his intelligence, good humor, and is approachable, his stamina, and his courage. He was a good friend of Francis. Now, of course, we're all just absolutely thrilled. There will be those who are going to look through his background. And there had been an incident with a priest who had been accused of abuse. And while he then head of the Augustinian order in Chicago, there are critics who say that then Father Prevost did not do enough to make sure that the whole parish and school nearby knew about that situation. This is some 25, 30 years ago. It was a different time. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just trying to lay out the entire picture because I think there is that. If you have a career, whether it's in journalism or as a priest, there are warts and all that come with it. So no one has said this man is perfect. They are saying he's lived a lot of life. He has been a part of Latin America, the biggest outgrowth of the church. And because of that, I think is probably why he was chosen, that outreach that he has to not only the United States, but to other countries. To say we're just really excited to be here for this, to witness the name of an American is beyond beyond one of the most historic moments I've witnessed in some 35 years as a reporter. Marian and Alex?
I was going to say, Marianne, not only that, this is your third conclave. You're a Catholic yourself, covering the church for all this time. I know many Catholics had total disbelief that in their lifetime they would see an American pope, and the shock is still fresh. What do you think allowed Robert Prevost to break through and make this historic step?
There might have been, we had spoken with Bishop Barron just yesterday. Bishop Barron has a huge digital following. Robert Barron has Word on Fire. Many know who he is. And he said there could be someone who comes through the middle. Many had thought about the Secretary of State, the Italian, Parolin. Others thought about Luis Tagle from the Philippines. And so perhaps he said perhaps someone like Prevost would be the surprise compromise that wasn't necessarily on everyone's radar, but enough that we kept some notes about him. Of course, Jorge Bergoglio was a complete surprise to us. This was a surprise because we did not expect an American, but we had at least been studying a bit on who he was. One other note, we happened to be working from the Augustinian home, the school, and where the Augustinians live. So, of course, they're quite, thrilled that this is one of their own. It is just steps from the Vatican. And as I mentioned, with this job he's had recently in the last couple of years, Francis calling him back to Rome and just making him a cardinal, really, within the last couple of years. He knows his way around, and he is someone that is not a complete novice.
I did hear someone in some of the reporting that we've heard that he spent about a third of his life in the U.S., a third of his life in Peru, in South America, and then a third of his life in Rome as well. So he does have a broad base. Let me ask you really quickly, though. We hear this was a pretty quick vote based on, a day and a half, based on what we've seen historically. What do you think, and can you explain a little bit more about what his role was that would have given him access to most of the cardinals that are newly elevated by Francis, the role that he had that was such a prominent role?
Well, the hierarchy of the church, of course, we have the parish priests, and if you do move up in a title, next would be bishop, and then after bishop, archbishop of a bigger city, and cardinal. So if he, as the head of the Vatican office that appoints those bishops, that tells you that he has this big global view of who are the new leaders of the church, who are those in charge. I do think we're obviously going to learn more, about those relationships, but so many have said it's that approachableness of him. Is that a word, approachableness? I hope so. I know that moment that we spoke to him 12 years ago, we just happened to be outside near the colonnades as you look at St. Peter's, and we happened to say to him, hey, do you happen to know Pope Francis? And he said, yes, I do. And he didn't have to check with 5 people to see if it's okay to speak to us, as sometimes people have to do. He just stood and talked and said how much he was grateful to know him and looking forward to his papacy.
Did you get that interview on tape? Should we be looking for that right now, Marianne?
We did. We're going to find that for you.
Okay, we'll be looking.
It's very short, but we do have that. Well, yes, we will find that for you.
All right.
I hope you understand or hear my enthusiasm of what it was like in that square. It was just electric. It was absolutely electric. And I think part of that is people are always looking for hope. Mm-hmm. They're looking for what is the best in all of us. And in a chaotic world, that hope that perhaps he represents that is something that comes to your heart.
Well stated, Marianne. I've watched you do at least one other conclave and watched you go to Rome many times. And yes, you did bring home that enthusiasm. And you very well stated that people are looking for a bit of hope. Thank you so much for your reporting. I know you'll be there for a little bit to get diving deeper, a little bit deeper, and getting some more reaction from folks there on the ground. We appreciate you right now and always.